Am I the a-hole for bringing a llama as my +1 to my friend's wedding? Alright, gather round, Redditus, because I've got a story for you that's crazier than a squirrel on caffeine. It all started with a wedding invitation and my weird sense of humor. So, here's the deal. I, 29M, was invited to my best friend's wedding. Lovely, right? Well, that's where things get wild. Meet Larry, my pet llama. Yes, you read that right. While most people have dogs or cats, I've got Larry. He's not just any llama, he's like family. So, when the invite said I could bring a +1, naturally, Larry was my top choice. What could go wrong, right? Spoiler, everything. The day of the wedding, I dressed Larry in a tiny tuxedo harness, complete with a bow tie. He looked dapper, and I thought he might steal the show. We arrive at the venue, and instantly, we're the center of attention. Guests were divided into two groups, those who thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen, and those who looked like they were about to call animal control. David, the groom, spots us first. His face goes from confused to amused to mildly panicked in seconds. Emily, the bride, has a similar reaction, ending on panic. But hey, I figured they'd warm up to Larry eventually. During the ceremony, Larry was surprisingly well-behaved. He sat quietly, his big llama eyes watching everything with what seemed like dignified curiosity. It wasn't until the vows that things got interesting. As David and Emily were exchanging heartfelt vows, Larry decided it was the perfect moment to let out a loud, echoing screech. Imagine the sound of a foghorn mixed with a dying walrus. The crowd gasped, David fumbled his lines, and Emily's grandmother nearly had a heart attack. I tried to play it cool, giving Larry a reassuring pat and whispering, "Good boy," but the damage was done. But the real fun began at the reception. Larry, having developed a taste for the finer things in life, made a beeline for the buffet. You'd think a llama would go for the veggies, but no, Larry had a sweet tooth. He plunged his face into the wedding cake like it was his last meal. Frosting flew everywhere, guests screamed, and Emily looked like she might actually murder me. Enter Barbara, the bride's mother. Now, Barbara is a force of nature. She stormed over, her face redder than the maraschino cherries now decorating Larry's face. She unleashed a tirade that could strip paint, yelling at me for ruining her daughter's special day. I stood there, nodding like a bobblehead, trying not to laugh at the absurdity of it all. In the midst of this, David, ever the peacemaker, tried to calm things down. "It's okay, Mom. It's just a cake," he said, wiping frosting off his tuxedo. Emily, on the other hand, was less forgiving. Her dream wedding was now a circus, and I was the clown-in-chief. The venue staff, clearly not trained for impromptu petting zoos, tried to catch Larry. It was like watching a comedy sketch. People slipping on frosting, tables being knocked over, and Larry prancing around like he was having the time of his life. Eventually, security managed to escort Larry out, leaving a trail of chaos behind. As the night wound down and the guests slowly recovered from the llama-induced madness, I found myself cornered by David and Emily. "What were you thinking?" Emily hissed, her eyes blazing. "Who brings a llama to a wedding?" I shrugged, trying to look sorry. I thought it would be fun. Larry's part of the family, and he looked so cute in his little tux. David sighed, rubbing his temples. "Look, man, we love you. But maybe next time, leave Larry at home." Feeling like a total idiot, I started to help clean up the mess Larry had left behind. Guests were whispering and pointing, and I could feel their judgment. The reception continued, but the mood had shifted. The laughter and chatter had a strained edge, and the dance floor seemed a little less crowded. At one point, David pulled me aside. "Seriously, man, what were you thinking?" he asked, a mix of exasperation and amusement in his voice. "I know you love Larry, but a wedding? Really?" I know. I replied, rubbing the back of my neck. It was a stupid idea. I thought it would be funny and memorable. "Well, it's definitely memorable," David said with a chuckle. "Just not in the way we hoped." Emily's cousin, a veterinarian, took pity on me and helped get Larry back into the trailer. She even offered some advice on keeping Larry a bit more grounded in the future. As we were packing up, she looked at me with a wry smile. "You're lucky Emily didn't strangle you with her veil." "I know," I said, shaking my head. "I owe them big time." By the end of the night, I had apologized to nearly everyone at the wedding and offered to pay for a new cake. Emily accepted my apology, though I could tell she was still mad. Barbara, on the other hand, gave me a look that promised she'd never forget or forgive the llama fiasco. Driving home, with Larry contently chewing on some hay in the back, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. It was a disaster, sure, but it was also a story no one would ever forget. And isn't that what weddings are all about? Making memories? So, here I am, dear Reddit, wondering if I'm the a-hole for bringing a llama to my friend's wedding. I genuinely thought it would be a fun, quirky addition to the day. In hindsight, maybe it wasn't my best idea. But hey, at least it's a wedding no one will ever forget, right? Am I the a-hole?